The arrogant challenge. The crystal spires of Syrian Prime University stretched toward the purple sky like frozen lightning. Within the grand halls of the most prestigious institution in the Andromeda Coalition, beings from 1,000 worlds gathered to study the mysteries of the cosmos. The university prided itself on educating only the most advanced species, those who had transcended their primitive origins, and joined the enlightened community of spacefaring civilizations. In the depths of the Xenobiology wing, 3 students clustered around a holographic display showing various planetary systems. Zephyr Vex, whose crystalline body refracted the room's light into dancing rainbows, manipulated the controls with practiced ease. His species, the Silturans, had mastered energy manipulation 15,000 years ago and considered themselves the intellectual elite of the galaxy. "Look at this pathetic collection," Zephyr said, his voice resonating like wind chimes in a storm. His faceted eyes gleamed with amusement as he scrolled through images of primitive worlds. "How Professor Valdris expects us to write serious research papers on these backward planets is beyond my comprehension." Nayla Krim floated nearby in her specialized water suit, her amphibious form graceful even in the artificial environment. Her people from Aquaros had achieved interstellar travel through biotechnology, growing their ships rather than building them. She extended a webbed finger toward the display. "At least most of these species show potential for eventual advancement. Some have already developed basic spaceflight." The third member of their group, Torxbane, clicked his mandibles in disapproval. His 6 arms worked independently as he sorted through data files with mechanical precision. The chitinous hive had perfected collective intelligence millennia ago, allowing them to solve complex problems through shared consciousness. "Potential means nothing without proper guidance," he buzzed through his translator. "The Coalition wastes too much time monitoring species that will never achieve true civilization." Zephyr's crystalline form brightened with sudden interest as he accessed a restricted file. "Wait, here's something interesting. A classification I've never seen before." The hologram shifted to show a small blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. The planet appeared unremarkable, but the data surrounding it was heavily encrypted. "Earth," Nayla read from the display, her gills fluttering with curiosity. "Why is there so little information available? Usually the Coalition maintains extensive files on all known worlds." Torx's compound eyes focused on the security warnings surrounding the file. "This isn't just classified information. Look at these restrictions: no contact protocols, permanent quarantine status, military monitoring required." His translator buzzed with confusion. What kind of species requires this level of containment? Zephyr's excitement grew as he managed to bypass some of the lower-level security barriers. Fragments of information began appearing on the display. The dominant species calls themselves humans. Bipedal, carbon-based, limited lifespan of roughly 100 standard years. He paused, his light dimming with disappointment. How utterly mundane. If they're so ordinary, why the extreme security measures? Nella wondered aloud, swimming closer to examine the partial data. The Coalition doesn't maintain permanent quarantines without serious justification. Their investigation was interrupted by the arrival of Professor Valdris, whose energy-based form crackled with ancient wisdom. The professor had existed for over 50,000 years and had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. When Valdris spoke, even the most arrogant students listened. "I see you've discovered the Earth files," the professor said, his voice carrying the weight of eons. "I wondered when your curiosity would lead you to that particular mystery." Zephyr straightened, his crystalline structure resonating with defiance. "Professor, we're simply conducting research for our comparative civilization project. But these files are incomplete. How are we supposed to analyze a species when most information about them is classified?" Valdris's energy form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "The information is restricted for good reason, young Silturan. Some knowledge comes with consequences that even advanced species like yours might not be prepared to handle. Surely you don't mean these humans pose any real threat?" Torx interjected, his 6 arms gesturing at the primitive-looking planet. Our preliminary scans show they've barely achieved basic spaceflight. My people mastered interstellar travel when this species was still using stone tools. The professor's form darkened, a sign of serious concern among energy beings. Technological advancement is not the only measure of a species' potential. Humans were placed under permanent quarantine not because they lack capability, but because they possessed too much of it in the wrong areas. Nayla's curiosity overrode her usual caution. "What do you mean, Professor? The Coalition has successfully integrated thousands of species. What makes humans different?" Valdris floated closer, his ancient presence filling the room with gravitas. "Humans are different because they are the only species the Coalition has ever encountered that becomes more dangerous when threatened rather than more compliant. Every other civilization, when faced with superior technology and overwhelming force, recognizes the wisdom of cooperation. Humans." He paused. "Humans adapt and escalate." Zephyr's light flickered with skepticism. "Surely you exaggerate, Professor. How could such a primitive species pose any threat to civilizations like ours? We have technology they couldn't comprehend in 1,000 years." "That assumption," Valdris replied gravely, "is exactly why the quarantine exists. The Coalition learned through painful experience that human ingenuity, combined with their refusal to accept defeat, creates unpredictable and often devastating results." The three students exchanged glances, their skepticism evident. Torx's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Professor, with respect, these restrictions seem based on outdated fears. Perhaps it's time the Coalition reconsidered its position on this species. The quarantine protocols were established after careful consideration by the wisest minds in the galaxy," Valdris warned. "They remain in place because they are necessary, not because of outdated prejudices." But the seeds of arrogance had already been planted. As Professor Valdris departed, leaving the students to their research, Zephyr's crystalline form blazed with newfound purpose. "This is perfect," he declared. "We'll make these humans the subject of our project. We'll prove that the Coalition's fears are groundless and that these primitives deserve our pity, not our caution." Nayla's biological sensors detected the excitement radiating from her companions. "You're talking about potentially violating quarantine protocols. The consequences could be severe." "Only if we're caught," Zephyr replied, his light pulsing with determination. "And what are they going to do? These humans don't even know we exist. We'll observe them from a safe distance, document their primitive behaviors, and present our findings to the Academic Council. Imagine the recognition we'll receive for being the first to properly study the galaxy's most mysteriously feared species." Torx's collective intelligence processed the risks and potential rewards rapidly. The security around Earth's communications is designed to prevent large-scale contact, not to block academic observation. With the right approach, we could monitor their transmissions without triggering any alerts. Over the following days, the three students threw themselves into their unauthorized research project. They discovered methods to bypass the Coalition's monitoring systems and began intercepting human communications. What they found only reinforced their belief in human primitiveness. "Look at this," Nayla laughed, displaying intercepted television broadcasts. "They create fictional stories about conflict and violence for entertainment. What kind of species finds warfare amusing?" Zephyr manipulated the display to show human news reports, and they can't even maintain peace on their own planet. They're constantly fighting over resources, territory, and abstract concepts. It's pathetic. Torx analyzed human technological development with his species' collective intelligence. Their advancement is chaotic and inefficient. They develop weapons technology faster than they develop wisdom. It's no wonder the Coalition considers them dangerous to themselves. The more they studied humans, the more convinced they became that the quarantine was unnecessary. These beings appeared to be exactly what they seemed. A young, violent species that would likely destroy itself long before becoming a threat to anyone else. "I have an idea," Zephyr announced during one of their late-night research sessions. "What if we actually made contact? Nothing dramatic, just a simple message. We could gauge their reaction and include it in our presentation. Nayla's gills fluttered nervously. That would be a direct violation of the quarantine protocols. The consequences would be severe if we were discovered. But think of the academic value, Zephyr pressed. We would be the first students in coalition history to make direct contact with a quarantined species. The knowledge we could gain would revolutionize xenobiology. Torque's 6 arms worked frantically as his collective consciousness processed the possibilities. We could craft a message that appears to come from deep space, with no traceable origin. A simple greeting, perhaps with some basic questions about their civilization. The plan began to take shape. They would send a brief, condescending message to Earth, expecting either no response or a primitive, odd reply that they could use to demonstrate human inferiority. Their academic project would become a sensation, proving that the coalition's fears were based on outdated information and excessive caution. As they prepared their transmission, none of the 3 students considered that their message might be received by beings who had spent centuries monitoring coalition communications, learning their languages, and preparing for the day when contact would finally come. They had no idea that their primitive targets had been watching the Watchers, developing technologies and strategies specifically designed to deal with the advanced civilizations that had chosen to isolate rather than welcome them. The message they composed was perfectly crafted to demonstrate their superiority. Greetings, people of Earth. We are students of advanced civilizations, studying primitive species for academic purposes. We have chosen your world as a subject of research due to your reputation for violence and technological backwardness. Please respond with information about your current capabilities so we may better understand why your species requires containment. We are curious to learn if you have evolved beyond your destructive tendencies or if you remain the dangerous primitives our records suggest. With a gesture of crystalline arrogance, Zephyr activated the transmission array. The message converted to quantum frequencies and shot across space toward the small blue world that held secrets none of them could imagine. Now we wait, he said confidently. Soon we'll have proof that the great human threat is nothing more than coalition paranoia. What they had actually done was announce their presence to a species that had spent 3 centuries preparing for exactly this moment, developing technologies and strategies that would soon shatter every assumption the galaxy held about primitive Earth and its supposedly helpless inhabitants. The devastating reply. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display showing the intercepted alien transmission. The underground command center hummed with quiet efficiency as Earth's best minds analyzed every aspect of the condescending message from space. Primitive species, Admiral Chen read aloud, her voice carrying 3 decades of military experience. Academic research, dangerous primitives. She turned to face the assembled council of Earth's defense leaders. Gentlemen, ladies, it seems our galactic neighbors have finally decided to break their own quarantine. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. Her team had been studying intercepted coalition communications for over 50 years, slowly building humanity's understanding of the species that had chosen to isolate them. The transmission originates from Syrian Prime University, specifically from student quarters. This appears to be an unauthorized contact by young academics who believe they're studying harmless primitives. General Marcus Webb, head of Earth's Special Operations Command, leaned back in his chair. Students. They'd broken a 3-century-old quarantine because students wanted to write a research paper. His laugh held no humor. The arrogance is almost impressive. Admiral Chen activated the room's main display, showing the sleek form of humanity's most advanced warship. The Nemesis floated in Earth's orbital shipyard, its black hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Captain Morrison, your ship is ready for deployment. Captain Rex Morrison stood at attention, his weathered face showing the calm confidence of a veteran pilot. Yes, Admiral. The Nemesis completed final testing last week. All systems are optimal, and my crew is prepared for first contact protocols. First contact, General Webb mused. After 300 years of being treated like dangerous animals in a zoo, we finally get to introduce ourselves properly. Dr. Vasquez pulled up her analysis of the alien students' technological capabilities. Based on their transmission methods and the security flaws in their message, these beings are overconfident in their technological superiority. They use quantum communications but lack proper encryption protocols. Their shields are energy-based but show vulnerability to focused electromagnetic pulses. Admiral Chen nodded approvingly. The coalition species have lived in peace for so long they've forgotten how to fight. They've turned their military technology into academic exercises. She paused, studying the faces around the table. They're about to learn why Earth was quarantined. Within hours, the Nemesis launched from Earth's hidden orbital platform. The ship moved with impossible silence through space, its revolutionary drive system leaving no energy signature that alien sensors could detect. Captain Morrison had handpicked his crew from Earth's finest, each member trained for this exact scenario. Commander Lisa Park, the ship's tactical officer, monitored their approach to Xerion Prime. "Captain, we're approaching the university's sensor perimeter. Their detection grid is impressive but predictable. It's designed to spot large fleets, not single vessels using our stealth technology. They've never needed to look for ships like ours," Captain Morrison replied. "Maintain silent running. Let's see how close we can get before announcing ourselves." The Nemesis slipped through the outer system's defenses like a shadow. The university's sensors registered nothing unusual as the Earth ship positioned itself within striking distance of the massive educational complex. From this range, they could monitor every communication, analyze every system, and observe every movement within the alien facility. Meanwhile, in their dormitory common room, Zephyr, Nella, and Torx waited impatiently for a response to their message. 3 days had passed since their transmission, and their confidence was beginning to waver. "Perhaps their technology truly is too primitive to receive our message," Nella suggested, her biological sensors detecting growing anxiety from her companions. Zephyr's crystalline form flickered with diminishing enthusiasm. "Or maybe they received it but lacked the capability to respond. Either way, we should have enough data to complete our project." Torx's collective intelligence had been analyzing their intercepted human communications continuously. Their information networks are surprisingly complex for such a young species. They've created a global communication system that allows instant data sharing across their entire planet. "Impressive for primitives," Zephyr acknowledged, "but still centuries behind our most basic technology." Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Professor Velders, whose energy form crackled with unusual intensity. "Students, I need to speak with you immediately about your recent activities." The three exchanged guilty glances. Mela's gills fluttered nervously as she asked, "Professor, is something wrong?" "Your unauthorized transmission to Earth has been detected by University security," Velders announced gravely. "The Coalition Council has been notified, and they are displeased." Zephyr's light dimmed with worry. "Professor, we only sent a simple academic inquiry. Surely the Council understands the value of direct research." "What you have done," Velders said slowly, "is potentially awaken something that has been dormant for 3 centuries. The quarantine exists not to protect the galaxy from humans, but to protect humans from being forced to reveal their true capabilities." Before any of the students could respond, every screen in the university suddenly activated. The familiar logo of Xerion Prime University was replaced by an image none of them had ever seen. The flag of Earth, displayed with crisp clarity across every communication device in the facility. A human voice, speaking perfect coalition standard, filled the halls of the university. "Attention, students of Xerion Prime University. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your recent transmission and find ourselves curious about your academic project." The 3 students stood frozen in shock. Humans weren't supposed to know coalition languages, weren't supposed to have the technology to override their communication systems, and certainly weren't supposed to be able to project their voices across interstellar space. The Admiral's voice continued, calm and professional. "We understand that you view our species as primitive and dangerous. We thought it might be educational to provide a demonstration of just how accurate that assessment truly is." Throughout the university, thousands of alien students and faculty watched in growing horror as the communication continued. "Your message mentioned curiosity about our current capabilities. Captain Morrison, please provide our young friends with a practical demonstration." The screens changed to show an external view of the university. For a moment, nothing seemed different. Then, as impossible as it seemed, a shadow began to materialize in space near the station. The Nemesis slowly faded into visibility, its sleek black hull emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. "Stealth technology," Captain Morrison's voice explained through the communication system. "We've been observing your facility for the past 6 hours, analyzing your defenses, monitoring your communications, and learning about your daily routines." Panic began to spread through the university as the implications became clear. If humans could approach undetected, if they could override communication systems, if they possessed technology that the Coalition's best scientists hadn't anticipated, then everything they thought they knew about Earth was wrong. Commander Park's voice joined the transmission. "Your shield generators are powered by 3 primary energy sources located in the university's lower levels. Your communication arrays operate on quantum frequencies 7.2 through 8.1. Your emergency protocols assume threats will announce themselves before attacking." The demonstration continued as the Nemesis sensors painted the university with targeting data, showing that they had identified every critical system, every defensive measure, and every potential weakness in the massive structure. Admiral Chen's voice returned. "Now let us address your academic curiosity about human capabilities. You wondered if we had evolved beyond our destructive tendencies. The answer is no. We remain exactly as dangerous as your records suggest. The difference is that we've learned to focus that danger with precision and purpose." In the student common room, Zephyr's crystalline form had gone completely dark with terror. Nayla's biological processes were shutting down from shock, and Torx's collective consciousness was overwhelmed by contradictory data. "You see," Admiral Chen explained, "your coalition made a fundamental error in judgment 3 centuries ago. You assumed that a species' danger level was inversely related to their technological development. You failed to consider that some species become more dangerous as they advance, not less. The Nemesis's weapon systems powered up, not to fire, but to demonstrate their existence. Energy signatures that coalition sensors had never encountered before lit up the displays of every monitoring station in the system. The quarantine you established didn't contain us," Captain Morrison added. "It gave us time to study you, to learn your weaknesses, and to prepare for the day when contact would inevitably occur. While you've spent centuries in peace, we've spent centuries getting ready for war." Professor Valdris's energy form was pulsing with ancient fear as he addressed his students. "This is why the quarantine existed. Not to protect the galaxy from human violence, but to prevent humans from being forced to demonstrate their true nature." Admiral Chen's final words echoed through the university. "Your academic project sought to understand why humans are considered dangerous. Consider this your education. We are dangerous not because we are primitive, but because we are highly advanced beings who have never forgotten how to fight. The Coalition was wise to fear us, and even wiser to leave us alone." The transmission ended, leaving the university in stunned silence. The Nemesis began to fade back into invisibility, but not before leaving one final gift: a complete technical analysis of Sirian Prime's defenses, broadcast to every Coalition military installation in the sector. The message was clear. If 3 students could break the quarantine so easily, what would happen when Earth decided to break it officially? As the Nemesis disappeared back into the void, heading home with its mission complete, the Andromeda Coalition faced a terrifying new reality. The species they had contained for 3 centuries hadn't been weakened by isolation. They had been preparing. In the student common room, Zephyr's light finally returned, dim and uncertain. "What have we done?" he whispered. Professor Valdris's ancient voice carried the weight of cosmic understanding. "You have awakened the sleeping giant. The question now is whether the galaxy is ready for what comes next." The three students would eventually recover from their shock, but their academic project had accomplished something no one expected. It had given humanity its first glimpse of galactic civilization, and galactic civilization its first glimpse of what humans had become during their centuries of enforced solitude. The quarantine was over. The real test was just beginning.